All right, I am very excited today to be able to speak with Ya-Qin. Ya-Qin Zhang is the president of Baidu, leading technology, emerging business, and global business operations for the Beijing-based technology powerhouse. Baidu may be known as China's search giant, but the company is expanding its focus much further into the cloud and artificial intelligence with the opening of its new engineering center in Bellevue, Washington, which just opened officially today. An electrical engineer, Ya-Qin previously worked for many years at Microsoft, including a decade leading the Redmond Company's Asia-Pacific R&D group. Please welcome Baidu President Ya-Qin Zhang. It's great to have you here. All right, so we are going to have a chat in the official GeekWire Summit fireside chat style. I just wanted to start, Ya-Qin, you actually took a tour of the Living Computers Museum. You had a tour before we got going here. Right. What were your impressions, and did anything in particular stand out for you?
Well, this is very exciting. First of all, thank you, Todd and John, for hosting this wonderful event in this historical place. Yep. I spent probably 20 minutes, just had a tour. It's reminiscent of a lot of things we did back in the old days. I was looking at that Z-Lock, Z80 processor. I remember that was the first processor we're using to program. Yep. And really thank the team yep. For hosting us in this place, the Living Computer Museum and Labs. Yep. I also want to thank all my friends and colleagues and partners for coming to this event today, and there are a lot of people I have not seen for years, Microsoft, ex-Microsoft colleagues, and a lot of Baidu colleagues, and also friends in the greater Seattle area.
We just want to, I think we want to make sure we can hear you. You got to put it basically right up to your mouth.
Better?
Yes, yes.
Thank you for coming to this event. We're very excited to be here.
Great, excellent. So as I alluded to in the intro, many people know Baidu as the leading Chinese language search engine. But you've expanded much further beyond that in recent years, and much of that is within your purview as president. Give us your thumbnail sketch of Baidu in 2017. What is this company? What do you aspire to be, and where are you today?
Yeah. Well, search will continue to be our core business. If you look at the next few years, whether it's the business itself or the technology, a lot of this will be driven by core search. But also we're getting into new areas, as you mentioned, AIs, autonomous driving, cloud computing. So in the core search itself will also be transformed and elevated by AI. And obviously right now, search, most of search is done with keywords. In the next few years, I would say 50% will be done by voice, by images, face, and the vision. So that will be very different from what we do today. And also the search, the touch point has become extrapolated. Today it's mostly on the PCs, on the cell phones, and in the future will be IoT devices. So you talk about orders of magnitude of expansion here. And the other thing is today we look for information. In the future, information will look for us, be more personalized, more context-based. So search will be very much different from what we do today. It will continue to be a key part of our business. In the AI, we want to be an AI company. In fact, we invest most of our R&D resources in AI, starting from last year. Can you hear me on the back? Right.
Yeah, just eat that mic.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So first, as an AI company, we want to build a platform, a conversational platform. We call it the Do OS. We believe for the AI age, you need to have an OS, just like in the mobile and the PC. Here in the museum, for PC, you have Windows, you have a Mac OS. For mobile, you have Android and iOS. There was a little bit Windows Mobile too, Windows Phone. And for AI, we believe the world needs an open operating system, and we are building that called the Dual OS. So that's the first thing we do. We also look at the car. Automotive is going to be very different. We see a huge transformation in the next 5 years. And we believe you need a platform for that as well. So we call it Apollo. It's an open and a platform, just like Android for phones. This is the Android for autonomous system, especially autonomous driving. We also believe AI will play a huge role in a business, and that business will mainly take in the shape or form of cloud. So for Baidu, it's pretty simple. Search will continue to be our core business, will be elevated by AI. And then we build an AI operating system for home and for cars and for business through Baidu Cloud.
Excellent. So the focus of your Bellevue office, which just opened today, is AI and the cloud. And many people may not know this, but Baidu already has more than 2,000 AI researchers, engineers working on this around the world. And you're starting with a handful in Bellevue.
Right.
What are your aspirations for this office in the Seattle region?
Right. So Baidu overall has about 48,000 employees worldwide. And we put 15% of our revenue in R&D. Very similar to Microsoft. In fact, if you look at the culture, very close to the tech engineering-centric culture of Microsoft. And actually, I don't know exactly how many. Maybe 2,000, maybe a bit more. These days, AI is very generic. It's hard to define. But a lot of people are working on the research, on the technology, on the commercialization of AI. Seattle is actually a perfect place to do this. First, of course, it has access to two mega companies, Microsoft, Amazon. It also has a pretty vibrant and dynamic startup community. And obviously, we have one of the top universities in computer science, University of Washington. In fact, Professor Ed Lazowski is right here. He was the chairman of the computer science department. It's the Bill Gates chair professor. He was one of the few people initially convinced me to have an office here. I remember that discussion back in Brad's office 2 years ago. So this is the perfect place to have an R&D center in AI and the cloud computing. This is also a very pleasant place to live. And I live here. My family's here. The only downside I would say is there's no basketball team.
We're working on it.
I should talk with Steve, Steve Ballmer.
So it's a good point. And when we met last week, you actually pointed out that both you and Qi Lu, who is Baidu's chief operating officer, former Microsoft executive, engineering leader, both still maintain homes here. But you assured me that this new office was not merely so you'd have a place to work. Is that correct?
Not at all. I don't know if they give me an office at all. We started this office obviously with a vision. This is the tech center. It's a talent center. And also, we acquired a company called Kit.ai. We have a group of wonderful young scientists, engineers who will form the starting point of this office. They I think all of them are here, right? All right, raise your hand.
Back there.
Yeah. They've done a wonderful work in the keyword hardware detection and conversational the voice command. And we actually integrate that into the operating system I was talking about. And we are building a cloud team, doing cloud security, cloud infrastructure, and probably some in the hardware as well.
So these two areas.
So you guys make sure I have a space to, to stay. Give me a desk, and that real-time video conference system with Beijing.
So these two areas that you're focusing on here in particular are highly competitive. You're talking about cloud infrastructure, artificial intelligence.
Right.
For people in the United States who may not be as familiar with Baidu from daily usage, what would be your pitch? Why should folks pay attention to Baidu in artificial intelligence and the public cloud in particular, these two very highly competitive areas?
Right. Well, thank you for giving me that opportunity. Well, first of all, Baidu is one of the few companies, very few companies, really bet the future in AI and the technology. Right? And if you are passionate about AI, you believe in that, and Baidu is one of the few places, Microsoft too, and Amazon, there are only a handful of companies in the world that really believe in this and bet the future on AI. And the second is cloud and public cloud is actually our vehicle towards the business. And I believe for AI, there are two major ways to monetize or to commercialize. For consumers, it's through hardware. And for business, it's through cloud. And for Baidu, we not only in the consumer space, but we want to become a major player in business. And Baidu, the cloud, is the vehicle and the container for us to do that.
So as people in the United States think about China and the internet, one of the first things they think about is government control of the internet. How do you navigate that issue as you come to the United States? And does that limit what you can do in artificial intelligence by limiting the data that you have access to? Can you walk us through that whole issue and how you work through it?
Wow. Right. Well, I was actually, before this reception, was talking with the Bloomberg anchor. She asked me a similar question. And indeed, every country has a different set of guidelines and policies and regulations. And when you operate in a different country, you have to abide by those regulations and sometimes constraints. But overall, China has been just an amazing place for the internet industry. And if you look at the top 4 companies, 4 out of the top 10 companies are from China. Whether it's Alibaba, Tencent, or Baidu, or JD, there are a handful of other companies. They're getting into that first tier in the world. So you have to give the regulators, let's say, some credit. They have probably do something right. China's internet industry is booming. And the other thing is, the competition is very, very fierce in China. As I use the word scorching, scorching is fierce. It doesn't matter which space you are. For example, in search, there are more search engines in China than U.S. U.S. That's Google and Bing. In China, there are 6 or 7. Baidu is doing search, Alibaba is doing search, Tencent has search, 360, Sogo. There are 5 or 6 vertical search engines, super competitive. And actually, it's true for almost every single sector of the internet. I think it's good. It's a healthy. It makes all of us more productive and innovative. So it is very, very dynamic, very different.
Yeah. You worked for many years at Microsoft. Yep. Qi worked for many years at Microsoft. Microsoft has a very large artificial intelligence group.
Yep.
Some of their folks are here tonight. At the same time, you partner with Microsoft. In fact, right. Microsoft on your Apollo fund is partnering with you on that $1.5 billion self-driving cars initiative.
Yep.
What will you say to Satya Nadella if he comes after you and for poaching his employees? How do you navigate that relationship? Because it seems like one of the more complex ones in the tech industry.
Yeah. Well, obviously, we love to offer more choices, right, for all the top talents. But we also work with Microsoft. In fact, last week we exchanged emails looking at closer partnership in the things we just talked about. So part of our team here is also to facilitate that collaboration and the partnership. So it's also let me say logical to have Chinese companies to have R&D centers here. Just like we had the R&D center, Microsoft had started many years ago. In fact, my first job with Microsoft was to start a R&D office research back in Beijing. It was 1998.
And here you are.
Here I'm. That's right. It is logical because all the companies aspire to become a global company. A global company, need to build R&D center talents, market and product, and global scale. That's why Huawei has R&D center right in the same building. Tencent has an AI lab, I think also in the same building. Right. Alibaba has one just across the street. I think there are many Chinese companies going to be here to have R&D companies because we all are global companies.
Yeah. So when you look at this office, you're starting with just a handful, and you started in part with the Kit.ai
Yes.
acquisition. Do you envision yourself making acquisitions, additional acquisitions in the Seattle region to help build this office?
Absolutely, yes. I don't know which one we're gonna acquire, but acquisition is part of our strategy. Investment acquisition is part of our strategy. We acquired a small company in Silicon Valley doing perception, in the SLAM-based perception, and we invested in Uber, Cloudflare, and we will more actively invest in companies here.
Yeah.
And you mentioned about $1.5 billion Apollo fund. So part of the fund is to help expand our charter with M&A.
When we sat down and talked, I was fascinated by your discussion of the different eras of technology and the interchange between the U.S. and China, which I think might shatter some traditional perceptions among some of the folks here in the room. Walk through that, if you would.
Yeah, I have a more of I would say artificial way of just kind of dividing internet in different stages. I would say, first, just look at China. Right? First 10 years was probably more of a PC internet. 95 to 2005. Let's say the first 10 years in China. In the U.S. started earlier. The second stage was more of a mobile internet from 2005 to 2015. I would say 2 years ago, we are beginning to enter the AI era. So roughly about 10, AI maybe 10, maybe 20, maybe even longer. And in the PC internet era, that 10 years, China was a follower in both technology and the business model. There was Portal, there was essentially BAT, all started from learning from U.S.
Baidu, Alibaba,
Alibaba
Tencent.
and the Tencent, right? So was really trying to build up the market, to have a lot of users, but really learned technology and the business model from U.S. In the mobile internet era, China, some of the basic technology was still learned from U.S., especially in research. But in terms of product, there was a lot of innovation. If you use WeChat and all the payment, use Baidu, all the feed functionality, or the send on Weibo, you actually find that it's better experience than a lot of the counterparts here. Just take a payment as example. In China, right now, you can go out without cash. It's truly a cashless society. And here, sometimes you have to pay parking, you use credit card, Apple Pay. It's not where it is.
It's a mess.
It's a little mess, right? So I would say in the mobile internet, that 10 years, China has leapfrogged the U.S. and the rest of the world with the mobile apps and the experience, and especially in terms of infrastructure, payment and user experience. Now we enter into a new era, AI. I think China can lead in technology, in R&D, together with U.S. So I have a proposition. We're saying China, U.S. will become the twin engine of innovation in the next 10 years.
That's great. So I just want to wrap up here with one sort of forward-looking question. Baidu, in artificial intelligence in particular, focuses on a variety of areas: computer vision, speech recognition, deep learning, natural language processing, and general artificial intelligence,
Yes.
the all-important quest to essentially replicate the human brain.
The general part, we not much yet. Right now,
Well,
on the
not a lot of
exhibition.
people are.
Right.
Yeah. Where do you see among those different areas the biggest promise for a world-changing breakthrough in the next 3, 5, 10 years?
Yeah. We are already pretty good for the entire industry, technology-wise. We're pretty good in voice recognition, which is as good as people, sometimes even better. Face recognition is probably better. Natural language will take probably 5 years to reach parity with human being, maybe even be longer. But I see in the foreseeable future it will get there. If you look at the biggest opportunity, And I think one is the transformation on the conventional or traditional industry, healthcare, education, logistics, and the other is autonomous system, autonomous driving. And next 5 years, when we come back, it will be a very different world.
In what way? Can you go into a little more specifics?
AI is the single most transformed force of our time. This is changing everything we do. It expands the envelope of IT industry. It transforms the conventional industry, and also create new categories. I think in 5 years, I will see cars self-driving in the street of Seattle. I see cargoes being delivered through drones, and I see people hopefully don't have to work their hard. And I see a lot of machines be used to read X-rays. It's going to be very different.
Well, this is a fascinating glimpse into Baidu. Ya-Qin, thank you very much for speaking with us.
Thank you, Todd.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
And good luck with the new office.
Thank you.